Picks. Week 13, Part 3. I'm Tony T here with our college football pick show here for Wednesdays. We got 10 games for Saturday's college football. Now there's 63 games here this week. We're going to do them in 6 parts, so we'll have 10 free here in Part 3. We should be about halfway through it now for this week. Before we get to just a couple things, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Free college football picks are updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports. We also have NBA, we have NFL, we have World Cup, NHL, and more. It's a good time to subscribe. And also, if you would support our channel, thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Then visit Tony'sPicks.com, our multi-capper site showcasing top cappers in our industry. Click the links to the hot cappers. Get signed up to some of our long-term passes. You'll see some of our hot cappers up here, like Ramon has been hot, Mindy as well. Click the links and get signed up to some of our long-term passes. So our premium picks here on the center of the page. If you scroll here, you'll find our best bets. Each capper can release one best bet per sport per day. Many of them are up there right now, so get a hold of them. $15 premium pick. Each capper can designate one of their picks on their card as a $15 pick just to showcase their service to existing and new customers. And of course, our 3-packs, which are great value, get signed up to them right now. Our pick ticker, you can buy picks individually a la carte on our pick ticker, so check that out as well. Let you know about a few things. Our promo code, you can save 20% off all premium pick packages. When you use that promo code TonyT at checkout, you can access our page by clicking the link in the description. Click the All Cappers tab and get signed up. Also, love to hear from you guys, so post your picks in the comments below. Also, we are looking for cappers. You can apply it over our site at Tony'sPicks.com down in the footer section. And our podcast. Every pick in podcast form available on all major platforms. Just search Tony's Picks on your favorite platform. All right, let's get this one started. Hawaii versus San Jose State. College football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Hawaii improved to 3-9 with their 31-25 home win to UNLV. Warriors gained 369 yards in this one with 167 rushing on 36 attempts. Defensively, they allowed 4 yards per run to the Rebels with 288 passing yards on 37 attempts. Braden Shager completed 59% of his passes with 7.5 yards per attempt. He passed for 202 yards and 3 touchdowns. On the year, Shager, a 55% completion rate with 6 yards per attempt. San Jose State fell to 6-4 after their 35-31 road defeat to Utah State. Spartans produced 341 yards with 84 rushing on 28 attempts. Defensively, they allowed 3.5 yards per run to the Aggies with 244 passing on 35 attempts. Spartans did allow special team touchdown. Shavon Cordero completed 67% of his passes with 8.6 yards per attempt. He threw for 257 yards and 4 touchdowns. This year, Cordero, a 60% completion rate with 7.5 yards per attempt. Warriors on the road giving up 480 yards, 6.1 yards per attempt, 9.7 yards per pass attempt. Spartans are bowl eligible, but the 6-win Mountain West teams, they're not guaranteed anything. They really need 7 wins to get in the bowl. 6 wins, well, you do have a shot to get in, but it's never guaranteed. The player will be San Jose State here at -15. Wake Forest versus Duke college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Wake Forest improved to 7-4 with that 45-35 home win to Syracuse. Demon Deacons gained 543 yards with 212 rushing on 52 attempts. Defensively, they allowed 4 yards per run to the Orange with 357 passing yards on 32 attempts. Sam Hartman completed about 70% of his passes with 7.7 yards per attempt. He passed for 331 yards and 4 touchdowns. On the year, Hartman career highs here, 63% completion rate, 8.8 yards per attempt. Duke sits at 7-4 with that 28-26 road defeat to the Pittsburgh Panthers. Blue Devils posted 353 yards, 63 rushing on 27 carries. Defensively, they allowed nearly 4 yards per rush with 190 passing on 32 attempts. They fumbled twice with one going for a Pittsburgh touchdown. Riley Leonard completed 53% of his passes with 6.4 yards per attempt. He passed for 290 yards and 3 touchdowns. On the year, Leonard, a 62% completion rate, 7.4 yards per attempt. At home, Duke moving the football for 453 yards, 5.5 yards per rush, 8.7 yards per attempt. Demon Deacons' run game generated only 2.7 yards per attempt on the road. Past 3 games, Demon Deacons' defense wearing out by giving up 338 yards passing with 9.3 yards per pass attempt. The play here will be Duke plus 3.5. Illinois versus Northwestern college football pick for Saturday. Illinois fell to 7-4 after their 19-17 road defeat to Michigan. Final Illini gained 326 yards with 148 rushing on 34 attempts. Defensively, they allowed 4 yards per rush to the Wolverines with 208 passing on 34 attempts. Tommy DeVito completed 70% of his throws, 5.9 yards per attempt. On the season, DeVito a 70% completion rate with 7.1 yards per attempt. Northwestern, they sit at 1-10 after their 17-9 road defeat to Purdue. Wildcats offense gained 240 yards, 162 rushing on 45 carries. Defensively, they allowed 3.5 yards per rush to the Boilermakers with 159 passing on 25 attempts. Cole Freeman completed 45% of his throws, 3.9 yards per attempt. He passed for 78 yards and an interception. On the year, Freeman a 43% completion rate with 3.7 yards per attempt. Freeman is a fourth-string quarterback with injuries to Sullivan and Helinski, plus third-stringer Richardson has been ineffective. Wildcats will have trouble scoring here. Northwestern defense has played well this season. Play here, Illinois and Northwestern under 38. Minnesota versus Wisconsin college football pick. This one goes off here on Saturday. Minnesota is 7-4 after their 13-10 home defeat to Iowa. Golden Gophers gained 399 yards with 312 rushing on 50 carries. On defense, they allowed the Hawkeyes 2 yards per rush with 221 passing on 24 attempts. Tanner Morgan doubtful with that upper body injury. Ethan Kalakmanis completed 47% of his passes with 5.8 yards per attempt. He passed for 87 yards and an interception on the year. Kalakmanis a 47% completion rate, 7.5 yards per attempt. A touchdown and 4 picks on the year. Wisconsin improved to 6-5 after that 15-14 come from behind road win at Nebraska. Badgers gained 318 yards, 235 rushing on 52 carries. Defensively, they allowed 2 yards per rush with 106 passing yards on 20 attempts. Graham Mertz completed a season-low 44% with 4.6 yards per attempt. He passed for 83 yards, a touchdown, and 4.6 yards per attempt. This year, Mertz a 57% completion rate with 7.6 yards per attempt. The Golden Gophers quarterback situation a concern, under trending on both sides and head-to-head. Badgers defense passed 3 games, allowing 169 yards, and Golden Gophers 275 to play here. Minnesota and Wisconsin under 36. Oregon versus Oregon State college football pick. This one goes off here on Saturday. Oregon improved to 9-2 with their 20-17 home win to Utah. Ducks produced 346 yards with 59 rushing on 25 carries. Defensively, they allowed 4.5 yards per rush. The Utes with 170 passing yards on 38 attempts. Bo Nix completed 67% of his passes with 7.8 yards per attempt. He passed for 287 yards, a touchdown plus interception. Nix ran it only twice, though. This year, Nix a 72% completion rate with 9.1 yards per attempt. Oregon State 8-3 after their 31-7 road win at Arizona State. Badgers gained 443 yards with 222 rushing on 42 carries. Defensively, they allowed 5 yards per run to ASU with 122 passing on 32 attempts. Ben Gulbranson completed 71% of his passes with 9 yards per attempt. He passed for 108 yards and a touchdown. On the season, Gulbranson a 63% completion rate with 7.6 yards per attempt. Gulbranson a massive upgraded quarterback over the mistake-prone Chance Nolan. Nick's low rushing totals last week. I think it's a concern for the Ducks. Remember that thigh may be an issue. At home, the Beavers are allowing 296 yards and only 3.2 yards per rush to play here. Oregon State +3. UAB versus Louisiana Tech college football pick Saturday. UAB fell to 5-6 with that 41-10 road defeat to LSU. Blazers posted 259 yards with 48 rushing on 22 carries. Defensively, they surrendered 6 yards per rush to the Tigers with 299 passing on 31 attempts. Dylan Hopkins completed season lows here, 48%, 5.4 yards per attempt. He passed for 158 yards. Now this year, Hopkins a 64% completion rate, 9.2 yards per attempt. Louisiana Tech 3-8 after their 36-21 road win at Charlotte. Bulldogs posted 350 yards, 137 rushing on 36 carries. Defensively, they allowed nearly 5 yards per rush to the 49ers with 268 passing yards on 30 attempts. Landry Liddy completed 74% of his throws, 6.9 yards per attempt. He passed for 213 yards and 2 interceptions. This season, Liddy a 67% completion rate with 6.3 yards per attempt. Blazers with a win bowl eligible. Blazers have failed to cover 5 straight on the road and back-to-back road spot here. At home, Louisiana Tech does move the football for 428 yards, 4.6 yards per rush, 7.9 yards per pass attempt. To play here at Louisiana Tech at +17.5. UTEP versus UTSA college football pick Saturday. UTEP improved to 5-6 with their 40-6 home win to FIU. Miners gained 525 yards in this one with 335 rushing on 61 attempts. On defense, they held FIU to under 1 yard per rush with 56 passing yards on 21 attempts. Gavin Hardison missed the game due to an injury. Calvin Braunholtz completed 67% of his passes for 10.6 yards per attempt. He threw for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. This season, Braunholtz, 67% completion rate, 8.3 yards per attempt. UTSA 9-2 after their 41-7 road win at Rice. Roadrunners posted 394 yards with 262 rushing on 32 carries. Defensively, they held the Owls to 5 yards per rush on 32 carries, 225 passing on 42 attempts. Frank Harris, actually no, the Owls were held to just 5 yards total on 32 rushes, not 5 yards per attempt. They only gained 5 yards of rushing on 32 carries. Imagine that. Pretty good defense there by UTSA. Now, Frank Harris completed 78% of his throws, 7.4 yards per attempt. He threw for 103 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. This season, Harris, 69% completion rate, 8.5 yards per attempt. But the Miners are defending well over their past 3 games, holding teams at 317 yards, and they are a win away from bowl eligibility. Braunholtz has put up some pretty good numbers in place of Hardison. The play here, UTEP plus 17.5. Auburn versus Alabama college football pick Saturday. Auburn improved to 5-6 with their 41-17 home win to Western Kentucky. Tigers produced 374 yards with 252 rushing on 42 attempts. Defensively, they held WKU to under 3 yards per rush with 300 passing yards on 59 attempts. Robbie Ashford completed 42% of his passes with 5.4 yards per attempt. On the year, Ashford a 49% completion rate, 6.8 yards per attempt. Alabama improved to 9-2 after that 34-zip home win to FCS Austin Peay behind 527 yards. Bryce Young on the season, 64% completion rate, 8.1 yards per attempt. At home, the Crimson Tide are moving the football for 485 yards and 6 yards per rush. This will open up plays for Young in the passing game. Tigers' passing game has performed poorly on the road. Crimson Tide does not hold anything back here because they're out of the SEC championship game. The play here, Alabama minus 22. Utah versus Colorado college football pick Saturday. Utah fell to 8-3 with their 20-17 road defeat at Oregon. Utes gained 326 yards, 156 of it rushing on 36 attempts. On defense, they held the Ducks to just over 2 yards per rush with 287 passing yards on 37 attempts. Cameron Rising completed 55% of his passes with a season-low 4.5 yards per attempt. He passed for 170 yards and 3 interceptions. On the year, Rising a 65% completion rate with 7.7 yards per attempt. Colorado fell to 1-10 after a 54-7 road defeat at Washington. Buffs gained 202 yards, 79 of it rushing on 33 carries. Defensively, they allowed nearly 7 yards per rush to the Huskies with 295 passing on 38 attempts. Taichi Shrout completed 33% of his passes with 6.7 yards per attempt. He threw 420 yards, a touchdown, and a reception. This year, Shrout here a 44% completion rate with 6 yards per attempt. You know a 3-game tie in the Pac-12 conference here for second place between Utah, Washington, and Oregon will send the Utes to the Pac-12 title game in a Rose Bowl berth. So what they need to happen is they need UCLA to beat Cal. They also need Oregon and Washington to lose. And if they win the tiebreaker for second place in the Pac-12. So there is a path for Utah to get to the Rose Bowl, and that is to win and hope UCLA wins, and hope Washington State upsets Washington, and hope Oregon State upsets Oregon. So there are your scenarios there. Play here will be Utah minus 29.5. Iowa State versus TCU college football pick Saturday. Iowa State fell to 4-7 after that 14-10 home defeat to Texas Tech. Cyclones gained 422 yards with 128 rushing on 43 carries. On defense, they held the Red Raiders to 3 yards per rush with 141 passing on 21 attempts. Hunter Deckers, 66% completion rate with 6.5 yards per attempt. He threw for 294 yards and a touchdown. On the year, Deckers a 67% completion rate, 6.8 yards per attempt. Deckers has 18 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. TCU improved to 11-0 after that 29-28 road win at Baylor. Horned Frogs gained 442 yards, 115 of it rushing on 27 carries. Defensively, they did allow 5 yards per carry to the Bears with 269 passing yards on 30 attempts. Max Duggan completed 68% of his passes, 9.3 yards per attempt. He passed for 327 yards, a touchdown with an interception. This season, Duggan, a 66% completion rate, 9.3 yards per attempt. He's thrown for 26 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Horned Frogs' top 2 receivers and top running backs are banged up. Each listed as questionable. They took part in practice this week. Cyclones have covered 5 of their past 6 meetings against the Horned Frogs. Past 3 games, Iowa State holding teams to 230 yards, 2.5 yards per rush. The play here will be on Iowa State at plus 10. All right, that was our college football pick show here for Wednesday. This was week 13, part 3. We gave you 10 of them, so we still have we have a lot more to go as we continue to get to 63 for the week. So we'll do we'll do 10 a week here, and then we'll get to 13 on Friday. By the way, we'll do 13 for the Friday games because there are 13 games, but we'll get everything done in time for you guys for the holidays, and we'll get them in. All right, that's going to do it. We have more picks come up later from NBA college basketball, and don't forget the morning's team show starts our live broadcasting here on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time